Hello ladies and gents, and this is a request film in this one. It's a long time in the coming this. I was asked to do this one by one of the lady page members and I just cannot remember who it was who asked me because it was quite a while ago. So if you see this video, this one is particularly for you. This is St Philip's and St James's Church in Plaistow. St Philip's and St James Church in Plaistow is a Church of England church in East London. It originated as two churches before being merged into the joint parish of St Philip's and St James in 1955. See some exterior shots of it. Here, look, is the frontage. This was put on early 2000s, this newer frontage. It originally had wooden doors. It didn't have these extension things on either side, but this extension has allowed for a vestibule and toilet area, so that's why that was done. This is the building of the church. The original one, as we'll learn in a minute, was destroyed in the war. But this photo credit to Edward Keefe, this one. Dove Brothers Building Company building this. And this is the interior under construction. March 1955. As I say, it became the joint parish of St Philip's and St James in 1955, and that followed the wartime destruction of the original St Philip's. The parish in turn has become part of the parish of the Divine Compassion, along with three other parishes in Plaistow and Canning Town, which is St Mary's, St Matthias and St Martin's. But now, the original St Philip's Church, which was sadly lost in the war, this picture does not exist online. I looked everywhere for pictures of the original St Philip's and couldn't find any, and luckily I was allowed to photograph this picture, which exists inside the church and shows the interior of the original church. Very beautiful and very lavish. Such a shame that it was lost, but like a lot of the local area, it was blown away. But the original St Philip's Church, it was founded as a small mission church built on Whitwell Road in 1860 by St Mary's Church. It was taken on by the Society of Divine Compassion in 1894, but destroyed in 1941 during the London Blitz. The foundation stone for the new building was laid in 1954 on St Matthias, on the feast day of St Matthias, by Princess Margaret. Between 1876 and 1882, the Church of St Alban the Martyr, an Anglo-Catholic settlement, worked closely with St Philip's Church as a mission of St Andrew's, Plaistow. It originated in Forest Gate as an iron building around 1870 to serve a conventional district. It became a parish in 1881, formed from those of St Emmanuel Church in Forest Gate, St John's in Stratford and All Saints Church, West Ham. But before we move on, we just have one last look at the old original St Philip's that stood on the site here, very nearby. Such a shame, but there we are. But on with our tour. We'll get exterior views first, and then we'll have a nice look inside. This looks quite a plain church from the outside, but you do get a nice surprise when you go inside, especially with the altar. So join me for that part of the video now. There we are, ladies and gents. You've had the bit of history of the church. Now we're going to just do our exterior views before we go inside. This is a permission visit, this one, as you will discover. I've been and filmed inside. Service starts at 11, so I got here nice and early. I wasn't disappointed with the church. It did host a bad memory, but I think we're dealing with that now. That's well, yeah, it's a beautiful church. I did ask if I could go inside the bell tower. If it was structurally sound, they would have allowed it, but it's not that safe. So yeah, for my own safety, I'll walk you around the church, and what we're going to see now is really lovely. What we're going to see in a sec is really lovely. There's a person well known in this area He lets his dog shit in this churchyard. There's no one buried in the churchyard, but he lets his dog shit there and never picks it up. And the man in the church was just moaning about the amount of flies they've got in there. He went, "Oh, I know what's causing it." He went, "I know, I've seen the person." I was like, "Oh, okay." At least said, "Soon it's mended." What I'm going to show you now is this. This is where the high altar is in the church. The beautiful altarpiece you will see in the video. But this is really lovely, this is. I like this. I walk past this quite a lot because this is in my local area, you see. Someone said to me that was carved in Italy. Whether it was or not, I don't know. Now I shall have a walk around. This here, which was all part of the old religious order, is now a children's nursery and day centre, and there's a events hall that you can hire out, which we're going to see in a minute as we walk past. Oh yes, we shall do the whole walk round, my dears. Luckily it's fairly early on a Sunday morning, so the usual crowd of alcoholics and druggies aren't collected along the wall where we've just passed. They normally congregate there. They tend to leave the blokes alone, but it's the women they shout and whistle at and stuff, which is not very nice, is it? As no coward would say. This is the children's nursery. I don't know if you just saw the glimpse of the one magpie that seems to have shadowed me all morning. It was there when we began this tour outside, and it is still loitering around now. I've saluted it and stuff. I'm very superstitious. Cochineal Day Nursery. Named after the cochineal beetle. And they've got a ladybird instead of a cochineal beetle. Cochineal beetles, interestingly enough, are red beetles that used to be dried and turned into red dyes, lipsticks, made up products, all sorts. It was, until natural red dye came along, it was the most vivid red that could be got. And interestingly enough, the British redcoats of the army, their jackets were dyed with cochineal beetles. This is St Sed's Function Hall for hire. Halls and booking, that's often hired out, and you hear quite a lot of events going on in there. We've had our walk around. This is just their little garden area there. It's gated off. I shall hand you over to myself and the interior video, and then in we shall go. St Philip's and St James's. I know one of my lovely page members has been waiting for this one for a while. I'm sorry in the delay in getting it to you. This one holds memories for me, obviously. Unfortunately not a nice one, because my nan's funeral was in this church. I remember nothing about the church itself, and a few people have said to me, "Well, you must come and photograph and video St Philip's and St James." As we discussed in the intro piece, it originally began its life as just St James's Church. This entire area was bombed in the war. Everything was flattened. This is the font. We'll do the side aisles first. This is a permission visit, this one. To come in and ask for permission. The service starts at 11, so I got here early. I take lots of pictures of this one. Oh look. E20. And I've got permission to go into the upper gallery as well, so this is good. We'll do the side aisles first, the chancels, and then the nave. These are very good. I like these. Sorry, I didn't photograph that one, did I? Is there more? Yes, there is more. I remember nothing of this church, nothing. I said to the gentleman who has kindly allowed me to film and photograph, I think sometimes for our own sanity, our bodies block certain, or our minds block certain things out. All I remember of that day, my nan's funeral, is how cold it was. The only thing I remember is when they put the coffin down into the grave. It took me a long, long time to say goodbye, if I'm honest with you. Which is not a healthy thing. You have to say goodbye. Not forget, never forget. You have to let go and say goodbye. This is one of the side altars. This is where the consecrated host and wine is kept. That's a holy water stoop there. Just try and get this one a bit without falling. And you've got a Coptic or Orthodox cross down there, look. Original parquet flooring. This is 1950s, this church, and you really do have to admire it. People say, oh, they couldn't build like the old days. There's a picture in a minute that when we finish this tour, there's a picture. It doesn't exist online that I'm going to show you. It shows the old St James's Church, the interior thereof anyway. We'll do this chancel now. Oh wow, look at that, that's very impressive. I will magic erase the electrical things out and whatnot when I get round to doing the photos. One thing I do remember of my nan's funeral in here is that the coffin was there on props. And I remembered thinking how high up it was and that she wouldn't have liked that. She didn't like heights, my nan, bless her. And she had a good send-off. I'll tell you what, this church was packed from what I was told. Even my mum's dad, Mark, he came to the funeral, bought a lovely wreath. This is the organ. These are really good. I suppose they're like the Stations of the Cross, I think, or something like that, or scenes from the life of Christ, but done in chalks or pastels. What have we got here? St Ced brought the good news to Essex. One of the early Christians, St Ced. Oh look, this one, I know about this one. This basically portrays, that's St Veronica, and that, what she's got is a handkerchief. Anyone that's watched my videos from St Mary's Church in Rye, there's a really good image. I've got it indoors, I bought a copy of it. It's a bit bleak for what it is, but basically on this handkerchief that St Veronica used is imprinted the face of Christ similar to the Turin Shroud, and it's been tested and things and actually found to be kind of the era. They won't allow more tests and things on it. Alright. But yeah, I've got a copy of it indoors as a postcard. I'll take a picture and I'll add it on to this. The altar is absolutely beautiful. It really is lovely. Look at that. You are right. I cannot remember who it was that wanted me to cover this church. It was one of my page members as well. And obviously for family reasons I wanted to cover it too. The old St James's Church, when my nan's grandparents, or grandmother, the granddad was dead by that time, when they lived in Chargeable Lane, the old St James's Church was the place they worshipped at. They didn't have any christenings or marriages or funerals there. It was just their parish church while they lived in Plaistow. They moved to Custom House just after the First World War, Martindale Road, and they stayed there until it was bombed in the Second World War. Poor little man, St Francis of Assisi. I won't go up onto the altar because I don't like doing that. I think it's quite disrespectful if you're not clergy, unless you're given permission. I think that's a thing for the clergy, that. But for a 1950s church, I mean, you were coming into the modernist era then. You've got to admit, this is really lovely, isn't it, this one? I mean, the ceilings alone are something special. Don't know if the lights are original or not, but we'll get back a little further and then we shall go up into the upper gallery. I'm given permission for that one, so I like that. Up we go. Taking some pictures as we go along. Please do not touch the speakers. I shall not touch the speakers. I promise. And one can only assume that I'm sorry, I don't know, you might get up into the bell tower through here, to be honest with you, but I don't know where that is, the entrance for that. There's the bell rope there that goes there, look. Wonder how you access the bell tower, I shall have to ask. Look at the old 1950s chairs, look, they're really old, proper wooden chairs. I like it when a church keeps its original features. I put jeans and my smart trainers on for this one today. Churchyards and cemeteries that I cover, I normally wear some like old trainers or something like that. Just take a quick picture of that again. And that'll do us for the inside bit of the church. Right, ladies and gents, hope you've all enjoyed that and found it interesting. We're just in the vestibule bit now of the church, and as promised, look, this is the interior of the old St James's Church that was bombed in the war. So I'll take a picture of that. And several pictures actually. But yeah, look, this church was built as a memorial to the Brethren, the Society of Divine Compassion, who for over 50 years ministered to the people of this district. AD Martyrum Dei Gloriam. That's in Latin, but there you've got here, look, to the greater glory of God. This stone was laid by Her Royal Highness Princess Margaret on the feast of St Matthias, 1954. Here we are. The young gentleman's gone now, so I can see why they've put the chair there, because a child has crammed on it. Bless them. But yeah, this is just a vestibule area. You've got a holy water stoop there. And yeah, this is the church. I hope you've all found this one interesting. Thanks for watching. And as promised, the piece on St Veronica's handkerchief. This lovely image, this is the 6th station of the cross. As Christ made his way to the cross, or to be crucified, St Veronica stepped from the crowd and bathed his face with her veil. It's sometimes referred to as St Veronica's handkerchief, sometimes referred to as St Veronica's veil. This is the image from the church. But as I said, I have an image of this at home because I knew it was one that my nan would have liked. So I'll take you to that bit now, and then we'll learn a little bit more about St Veronica's handkerchief. And this is said to be the image of Christ that was left behind on St Veronica's handkerchief when she bathed the sweat and blood away from Christ's face. And it's an interesting one because unlike most images of Christ, he isn't blonde-haired and blue-eyed. He does look like a Jewish man in this one. One of the things that drew me to it, this is just a copy of it from Rye Church, St Mary's, but information there. Pause to read if you want to read this. This is painted by Gabmar, a 19th century Czech artist, gives his interpretation of that cloth, what that cloth looked like. So this is one in Rye Church, and I will take you on to a little bit of information about that now, about St Veronica's handkerchief. So off we go.
St Veronica's handkerchief, or sudarium, Latin for sweat cloth. Also known as the vernicle, and often called simply the Veronica, is a Christian relic consisting of a piece of cloth said to bear an image of the holy face of Jesus himself, produced by otherworldly means. Various existing images have been claimed to be the original relic, as well as early copies of it. Representations of it are also known as vernicles. The story of the image's origin is related to the 6th station of the cross, wherein Saint Veronica, encountering Jesus along the Via Dolorosa to Calvary, wipes the blood and sweat from his face with her veil. According to some versions, Saint Veronica later traveled to Rome to present the cloth to the Roman Emperor Tiberius. The veil has been said to quench thirst, cure blindness, and even raise the dead. The first written evidence of the story is from the Middle Ages, and during the 14th century, the veil became a central icon in the Western Church. In the words of art historian Neil MacGregor, from the 14th century onwards, wherever the Roman Church went, the Veronica would go with it. The act of Saint Veronica wiping the face of Jesus with her veil is celebrated in the sixth station of the cross in many Anglican, Catholic, and Western Orthodox churches. That there was a physical image venerated as the Veil of Veronica and displayed in Rome from the 14th century on is clear, but the provenance of this image is uncertain. It has often been assumed that the Veil of Veronica was present in the Old St. Peter's in Rome. In the papacy of Pope John VII, 705 to 708, as a chapel known as the Veronica Chapel was built during his reign. It would appear, however, that the Veil of Veronica was in place by 1011 when a scribe was identified as keeper of the cloth.